And we record to computer. Shalom, good afternoon from Jerusalem, Israel. This is Mr. Lowell Joseph Gallen, founder of the Root and Branch Association Limited, established in the United States of God of Israel, bless America in New York State, 1981, now celebrating our 44th year. Today is Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 in the Gregorian calendar, and it is the 26th day of the fifth Israelite Hebrew month of the Hebrew Israelite calendar year 5786. Welcome to episode 35 of our monthly uh, Ancient Roots Mothering Roots, Nettles, and Sage seminars with three mighty women of the God of Israel in alphabetical order by last name. Mrs. J. Rivka Asselin of the Lower Galilee here in Eretz Yisrael, Mrs. Chava Dagan of the Northern Negev here in Eretz Yisrael, and Mrs. Gila Weiss of Florida in the United States of God of Israel, bless America. And we welcome our friends and colleagues from the United States. Yes, the United States. And now, without further ado, let me hand over the microphone to Rivka, Chava, and Gila. Ladies, it's all yours.
Thank you, Lil Aryeh, a lion for our times. Welcome back, everybody. We have lifted ourselves out of the war slump, which seemed to kind of consume our thoughts, as Lil mentioned in the pre-introduction before we started recording. And we have quite a few shows on that topic of dealing with crisis and dealing with war. It is a 2-year war. We're coming up on the 2-year mark. So check those out if you are struggling and would like some help with that. We are moving on to another topic that we're so excited to talk about. That sounds so cliche, but we are so excited to talk about it because no one ever talked to us about it. We never saw it anywhere. And so we think this might potentially be helpful to other people. And that is dealing with, or I guess, parenting throughout the adult process when children become adults. So we could also probably subtitle this something like I'm here if you need me, or You Are Not Alone. So we have about 7 main points, and let's jump into that first one right there. And I think it kind of embodies the whole idea of parenting children who are leaving the nest, who are growing up, who are coming of age. So I have a couple of children. Gila's got a bunch of children. Kava's got some kids. We've all kind of gone through this, and we're at a place where we have some at home and some away, and we're starting to understand this process a little bit more deeply. Um, who would like to jump in and talk about that idea? You are not alone, and I'm here if you need me.
Hila. I'm not prepared to jump for the first jump in. Sorry. And my throat is also a little.
Well, that's basically it. The idea is when the kids leave, I'll start with a bit of a background story for myself so that we can compare and contrast. I think that's, and we were talking about this a bit together. For some families, this is second nature. A child grows up and here's the conflicts that might come up or the concerns that might come up, or here's how the flow looks. But for some families, they come very, very unprepared. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Lack of self-reflection in parenting and lack of introspection, which is kind of what is the end result or we'll talk about it now, when we're raising children. So Chava said it so beautifully. I'm saying it for you, but that when parents parent, when we have children, a lot of times we just kind of read the Torah and say, be fruitful and multiply, and we have children, or we're getting married and we just have children. That's what we do. And the whole parenting process kind of naturally follows, oh, yeah, that's just what we do. Oh, we just put our kid in Ma'on or in Gan. Oh, we just give a bottle. Oh, we just, go to the hospital. Oh, we just take all these tests. It's just kind of we just kind of flow with the crowd or whatever's done without thought, without introspection, without mindfulness. and without intentional parenting and thinking about what we're doing. So one of the things that I thought about before I had kids, and I feel like it served me well, and that's why I'm talking about it today, is what is the point of having kids in the first place? Is it just to kind of have kids and because they're cute, or you want to dress them up, or you want to play t-ball? Like, what is the ultimate goal? And for me, the ultimate goal was kind of like building this family network, building this kind of safety net under each individual person in the family, where they could rely on each other and lean on each other, because that was not something that I had growing up, and it wasn't something that I had into my adulthood. So, about 3 months before I turned 18, my mother let me know that I would be thrown out of the house, at the end of the summer. So, I finished high school, and then that was it. Anything I didn't take with me was sold, locks were changed on the door, and I was gone. I was a bird flown from the nest. And it was a really rough start. I lived homeless. I have a kind of interesting story, which I'll actually be talking about in the United States next month. But it was a challenge. And so I was very much alone. I very much felt alone. My grandmother died during that time. Couldn't really connect with I couldn't even call home or speak with my siblings. It was a real serious break. And so there's two sides to every story. My parents had their reasons for that break. But I'm here to say that it was not an enjoyable coming of age scenario for me as the child, and that it's not something that I want to perpetuate or do with my own children. So I was alone. I was told that I was alone. In fact, it was, yeah, fend for yourself. Literally those words. Whatever money you have, whatever, if you don't have a place to live, oh well. If you're homeless and you're eating out of garbage cans, which I did, okay. That I'm here if you need me, that kind of safety net wasn't there. So when things got really bad and I was eating out of garbage cans and living in, blizzard conditions, in the snow, in Ohio at that time, I didn't have a place to go. There was no, I'm here if you need me. There was really, really nothing. And so I understand now that that's a somewhat extreme situation. Of course, you don't know these things when you're growing up. And I understand that many parents are, not going to be that extreme with their children, which is great, wonderful news. But I just want to kind of compare and contrast what we're positing, and what happened to me. So yeah, maybe let's go into that if anyone else wants to touch on the idea of intentional parenting and mindful parenting, if there's anything else to say on that before we move on.
Okay, go ahead, Gina.
Chava, you go.
Now everybody wants to talk.
Exactly. You did the intro.
Yeah,
and
you
now
got it
we're
started.
Go, Chava.
So I also did not have, what I vision as a good home and a safe place for children. But the way that I intentionally became a parent was, for me, I'm always looking for clues. If I don't have it in my present situation, where can I find those clues? So for me, it would be looking back at not my parents' generation, but the one before that, or even through the Bible, or even through, as much as whatever this other culture is that we live with here, the Arab population still really, really lives very in these close-knit families. They start out in a house, and then as soon as one sibling gets married, they just add on to the house. And it creates this very close-knit family. And so also we have in our own traditions the same kind of close-knit families. You don't go far unless, of course, they're off settling land, which, everyone kind of spread out in biblical times just for that. But I also lived in Sri Lanka, which we kind of have talked about probably many times. And they're also very primitive, close-knit families. You've got what you've got, and when you're ready to get married or create your own family, you don't go far. And so we would wake up every morning, and there's the sister and the uncle and the aunt and the grandma and the mother, and we just all had breakfast together and then went on with our day and had lunch together and went on with our day and had dinner together and then went on with our day, and all the little kids were running around everywhere. It was just really put in my mind that, yeah, it's it's so natural and everyone gets along so much better, and they really, really take care of their elderly, and they really, really take care of their babies, and no one is left behind, and no one is forgotten, and everyone gets attention from somebody. And it was just like, it just felt so natural as opposed to where I had been coming from. Um, and in that, something went in where it was like, okay, this is what I want. I really, really want this. However that might show up, I want that closeness. I want my kids to be close. I want them to feel that they always have family. At whatever hour of the day, they can walk in the door and I'm there or someone's there. And that was very important to me, because it gives this foundation. And once you have that foundation, that strong foundation, from what I've seen in these different communities, also in Scotland, I've mentioned this before, super strong foundation of the family. And I just kind of take these clues and they come in and swirl around in my brain somehow, but that part, that foundation stays, and kind of incorporates into the rest of my parenting.
Thank you. That was very profound. You explained it so well. Thank you. So I want to say that I think we have a similar thread running between the three of us. Not the same stories, not the same level of, extreme, but essentially, at age 18, you're kind of on your own. So I, as a parent, was very, very much led by my intuition and really did it. So my goal with my babies was to be an attached parent. It came from a selfless. Many moms, they're selfless. They give to the kids because we want safety. We want a warm, loving home. We want an environment. I used to tell my kids, people used to come over and we had sofas, throw blankets, and piles of books. And I want my kids to, just plonk on the sofa, have a cup of cocoa, and read a book and feel that cozy, warm safety. This is my home. Kick my shoes off, have that. And so I didn't follow some of these type of societal, I want to say milestones where, okay, you're 18, and kids, most of my kids are over 18. Only one of the 8 is not 18 yet. So yes, according to the law, you can do XYZ, you can drive, but if I didn't put a number when they were toilet training, when they were weaning, when they were going through these developmental milestones, when they were, learning to regulate emotionally, when they were learning to read or write, if I didn't put a number and say, oh my gosh, you are 5 3/4 and a little bit, and you don't know how to read 3 paragraphs, you only read 1, if I didn't parent that way, why would I suddenly at age 18, we're not birds. Why am I going to throw you out the nest? So there is a balance on letting go and encouraging and allowing your kids to adult. Yet at the same time, like Chava said, I have an open door. Our house, we have that image of the American, I didn't grow up here. So, I grew up on the image of a house in suburbia with a white picket fence and a 2-car garage and a station wagon, back in the 70s and 80s, and the kids and a dog, etc., and kids leave the nest and parents downsize. Well, let me tell you something. Today, most of the people that I know are not downsizing. In fact, everyone's going on Instagram and looking at bunky homes and cabins for the married kids for when they come, for holidays and to stay. So my home is an open door. My kids leave, or they go away, or they go to study, or they go abroad, or they travel, or they move to a totally different state and they come back, or they go rent and they come back. And so it's like Grand Central Station. In we go and out we go. And they'll come for meals, and I have stacks of containers. Take food. There's always toilet paper. Go get it. It doesn't matter how much they're earning, what their position is in life. When they walk in the door, they know that this is home. And they might have created their own awesome, warm, and cozy homes. But when they walk in this door, it's always their home, and they can always come back. No questions answered, no matter where life takes them. And I feel that's really the guidepost. That's the path we're on. It's a journey. And that guides me all the time. They need a safe space. In fact, many of our adulting, young adults, kids need this. They need to know that. They need mom to call once so we can say, hey, I haven't heard of you. I miss you. Not, you don't call me. I haven't heard. I miss you, sweetie. What's going on? That's really where it's at. Is that continuing that vein of parenting, that attached parent, but not overly attached, letting go, let them adult, but keeping, sustaining that warm, I'm here for you, like we said, if you need. And at the same time, continuing to focus, keep the relationship as a focus. There are going to be bumps, just like there were in toddlerhood or preschool, but focusing on the bond and the relationship at all times.
Yeah, the sense of home is the third point. And, Gila's already gone really deep into it, which is great. It's, for me, that's a revolutionary thing, because it was very clear to me when I left my parents' home, that's it. This was no longer your home. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome to come back. And I also wanted that for my children. And just like Gila said, it isn't necessarily the case that an 18-year-old leaves home and that's the end. They're never coming back. Isn't it wonderful, or at least that's what I wanted for my family, for the kids to know, yeah, you can do a year of national service, come back home, decide what you're going to do next, do your next thing. Like, there's a home base. There's a place where you can let your hair down. There's a place where you can kick up your feet. And the attachment parenting issue, Lowell, you've talked about being non-neurotypical. And so that's one of the reasons that I gravitated towards attachment parenting. I think that and trauma in my own childhood, both issues made it difficult for me to emotionally connect with my brand new baby the first time I had a baby. And so I had this idea of what I wanted to build, but I really had no example for how to build it. And so I'm sharing this because not everybody watching this has got a great home example, and everything we're saying is just ringing bells. Oh yeah, that's right. Me too. Yeah. Or it's just like, I never had that. I never saw that. How am I going to create that? So the attachment parenting, the keeping the baby close, the reading all the signs really helped to foster for me and for others that have difficulty with emotional connection, either because of a non-neurotypical situation or a trauma situation. It really can help repair that and foster those emotional bonds. So I really encourage everyone to give that a shot, especially young parents with their new babies. So on the same token about that sense of home, oh, and I should just say the words conditional love. So that's part of that sense of home, right? It's unconditional love. You unconditionally can come, this is your home base. It's not, this is a punishment, X, Y, and Z. This is only your home if you, so on and so forth. We'll get to needing things from children in a moment. But I just want to, Chava talked about going back into our grandmother's generation. So she was saying not the parents' generation, one generation above. So in the grandparents' generation, what would happen when the woman became engaged? Well, she would go to work and tell her boss, I'm getting married. And the boss would say, great. And he'd pull out the calendar and he'd say, okay. And so what's your last day? What's your last day of work? Because it was understood that when a woman got married, that's it. She wasn't working anymore. Now, why? Why is that? What is that all about? I mean, on the day a woman gets married, she's not pregnant or she doesn't have a newborn baby necessarily. So she's not caring for the kids yet. So why was it kind of understood that a woman would not work as soon as she got married? And our ancestral wisdom discusses this, right? We talk about Shana Rishona of the marriage. So this is when a man wouldn't go to the military, he wouldn't have military service. He's supposed to be home building a home with his wife, right? Or it's very common minhag right now, very common among Am Israel for the newlywed couple. So that Shanat Rishona is considered newlywed, the first year newlyweds. To not travel for the first year. They don't invite guests to Shabbat, or they rarely do. They don't go out for Shabbat. They're really working on establishing the home, establishing the workflow of the home, the patterns of the home. So the idea that kind of in our grandmother's generation, the woman, it's like you're getting married. Okay, we understand you're now at home because you manage the home. You're building the home. It's also in our own vernacular, in our own holy language, beti, my house, is another term for describing my wife. Okay, she's the one who builds the home, who builds the house. The symbolism of standing under a chuppah to get married, it's building that home. The two people come together, right? The woman comes freely. The man is typically waiting for her, and the woman comes freely. And, in Ashkenazi tradition, circling the man, all these different customs around the woman coming in and building that home. And of course, we're taught from a Kabbalistic or Midrashic Chassidut perspective about the man and his wife being a sinor for all the goodness. Basically, all goodness comes to a man through his wife. So the importance of establishing a home, even before, and especially before the children come, and then establishing that home for the children, was something that even non-Jews knew. The secular world got that just 2 generations above mine. Anything else? No, I think that's good on there. So anybody else want to chime in with some thoughts about that before moving on?
Yeah, so in those roles, each one was completely understood, revered, honored, respected. So the entire community gives support to that idea of her being taking care and building this home. And our children, and so once you feel so supported and so respected, and you're giving that support and respect to others, the community, you can just imagine the system just runs so smoothly because it's the foundation of everything. And then we have the children who are being raised in this kind of environment, who then learn how to support, mimic, and become adults themselves, giving reverence and respect and honor to their future wives or husbands or whatever. And it's just like this chain ball effect that when you build that foundation, that's it. Your entire community rests on this. And it's so easy to raise adults in that situation. And when you don't have that, they don't grow up adults. They are floundering around trying to figure it out. And hopefully, please God, they will. But it's so much nicer and easier when we don't have all the mess. When we just know where we stand and The little boys look at their dads and little girls look at their moms, and everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, humans are humans, but the roles are supported, and it's a healthy, open communication, respectful. That means me to my children and my children to me, because it's all a mirror. We are a mirror.
So both of you essentially were touching on, and Chava beforehand as well, on the village. The village and the extended family, or what would be our circle of women friends or community. And this is all very, very helpful. But in today's world, we should be creating our circles of, community, women's circles, friendships, relationships, and modeling this to and for our kids. At the same time, with the lack thereof, a lot falls on us. Just as raising the little kids, so much falls on us, on the parents and on the moms. Raising adults, guiding adults is still parenting. So I love when Rivka said about the unconditional love. You don't have to tell a mom of a baby you don't have to explain what that means because it's inherent. It's just there. There is that unconditional love. But when our kids start to grow and they start to have opinions, and they may not be our opinions, they're not little mini me's, that is a great experience and learning time for when they're adult. And they do develop into these people with thoughts and the ability to think and logic, or less, or more emotional, or more temperamental, or a totally different personality, different opinions, different lifestyles, different choices. What do you do then? And so I think this is where we need to, like you said, go back to that idea of the village and the cohesive, unconditional love, where it's all about the relationship and the bond. Our kids, one of the things I like to repeat, and this is to myself, I'm still navigating this as I speak. My kids have heard my opinions their whole lives. They could probably predict what I'm going to say no matter what they do or choose. They do not need any more. Well, if you did this, or you said this, or you shoulda, coulda, woulda, why don't you, where are you? It's not helpful to a relationship. It actually stunts growth. It stunts relationship. And it's disrespectful in a way. No matter what their choices are, they do not need to know what we believe and think. They know it. That time that we spent all those years, they could parrot it all back to us. What they need is the unconditional love. What they need is response, not reaction. They tell us something, respond, give them the respect we would give others. And allow them to shimmy, kind of a wiggle into that role of being a respected adult, of taking responsibility, of feeling good about it, of not having that voice all the time. I don't agree with this choice. I don't condone. I do. And what helps me as well is looking back, Chava and Rivka, just like you. So many of our parents or grandparents crossed an ocean, started a new life, made choices their parents didn't. They made choices their parents might not have. And so when my kids make choices that differ from mine, that shows me that they have developed their own personality and they have the ability to think and to choose. Yeah, you chose that. That's not my choice. I have an opportunity to grow and focus on the relationship and the bond, not to judge them. So again, not to react. It's not easy. As mothers, we tend to react, but respond, and respond kindly, or at least respectfully. And as you both said, honest conversation and communication. And we repeat, I'm here if you need me. You're not alone. Meaning, if they make a not great choice at 19 or 20 or 18 or 23, I used to tell my kids, my young adults, call me at any time. Text me at any time. I will come wherever you are. I will pick you up. I will bring you what you need, and I won't ask questions. That's not easy because I would have questions that I want to ask. But them knowing that mom is a safe space is really important. That doesn't mean I would never ask a question, but that we would discern, just as with a toddler, what are we taught? Right? Wait till the iron cools or the temper cools. Now's not the time for a lecture or now's the time for calming. Later, when the feelings are calm and focused, let's discuss options. The same thing with our adult kids. Give them that. Continue to give them that. Yes, you can have a talk and respect if they're being not respectful. There's no room for consequences and conditions. They're adults. They'll walk out. You won't see them. So you put your healthy boundaries up. I don't tolerate being spoken to like that. Call me later. And that's it. There's no hard feelings. There's no words said that we're both going to regret. And I feel comfortable because I protected my boundaries while reminding them of the message of respect and reverence. And they'll go about their day and they'll call later and be like, sorry, Ima, wasn't thinking, I love you, I miss you. And on we go. And I think that these are little things that are just so important to internalize because it's all about the relationship. And these adults, as Rivka said, that what is our goal? That they be healthy emotionally, mentally, physically. That's what we strive for. They'll function in a world and go into relationships themselves without the condition on love.
Yeah, everything we do as a parent is to create a certain type of adult when you're mindfully parenting and intentionally parenting. That's how you're thinking ahead. Now, Gila said everything so beautifully, but my brain needs some kind of foundation to build it on. So I'm going to take it back a step for a minute. I want to talk about two sides to one coin. So we've got one side of the coin, which is parents shouldn't need anything from their children. Okay. So the idea is, and many, Rabbeim and others have spoken about the fact that we almost have like a godlike relationship with our parents, where the parents are constantly giving. It's like we can never pay them back for what they've given to us. But just like Hashem doesn't really need anything from us, like Hashem is complete. Okay. Creator spirit is complete. We shouldn't be needing anything from our kids. And so when Gila was talking about the kids, the kids are calling or whatever, and you're just kind of like, it's I love you, I miss you, how's it going? Not, why didn't you call me and blah, blah, blah. What's the difference? The difference is you're still making a phone call, right? Like I call it like mommy A, mommy B. Okay. So mommy A, like, hey, I miss you, how's it going? Is giving love, right? She's giving something. I love you. I miss you. I just want to see how you're doing. Just want to let you know I'm here. Okay, mommy B is like, why didn't you call me? I need you to call me. I need you to pay attention to me. I need you to tell me what's going on in your life. I need. That's not what we want. That it shouldn't be that way. That's the wrong dynamic. Okay, that's one side of the coin. Second side of the coin is guidance and giving. Okay, so Gila also touched on this. When she said, you don't need to, don't give your kids advice and this and that, I should have, would have, and all that stuff, which in general is very good advice. However, that is not the same as a child who's calling you saying, I need some advice, right? Then they're asking you for that. They're, you know, and you can give. Okay, instead of you need something. Well, I need you to make better decisions and I need you to do, that's different. Giving is like when the kid calls up, mommy, I'm looking to buy a house, and you know, here's the mortgage on this and that, and here's this and that, and I'm not sure if I'm ready, and I'm whatever those issues are that come up. Then it's like, absolutely, you know, you're giving guidance, um you're giving, and also acknowledging. So something, you know, it doesn't always have to be solicited. It can be unsolicited. So Gila talked about this. So I love listening to Gila talk about her son, you know, who's such a great father. And so she will point that out to him. She'll say, you know, you are such a wonderful father, you know, or I'll tell my daughter, like, you know, you really put your heart into your work. Like, they are so lucky to have you, you know, you're okay. That kind of stuff they do need. Okay. But there's a difference, right? Like, you should have done this and that. And you're doing such a great job. Look at all these things that you're accomplishing. Okay. It's a totally different thing. So I just want to lay that foundation, because everything we're talking about comes from that two-sided coin. On the one side, don't need anything. That's the wrong paradigm. Need from your spouse, need from your friends, need from, you know, whatever. I was going to say the bank.
That
Need,
too.
okay, you can have needs. You can have needs. That's important. You should have needs, but it's not your child's job to fulfill your needs. Okay. And on the other side, not needing anything doesn't mean that you can't give, right? Like, needing is almost the opposite of giving. Still give, keep giving, you know, but like Gila said, respect your boundaries. So that doesn't mean an open door, do whatever you want. I want to pause here just to see if anyone else has something to add to that before we kind of talk about who pays, or that dynamic of an adult child living at home. So any other thoughts about the not needing, giving?
Your cards, you don't get charged as much interest on your purchases outside of the
Someone's got a mic on with people talking in the background.
country, so let's talk later. And
Okay.
then I woke up later and I was like, I'll see those 5 minutes, and it was like 11:30, and I was like, fuck my gosh.
Don't know who that is. Someone's on the phone. Okay. So if nothing else, then let's get into this dynamic, because we were talking amongst ourselves. You know, I'm always like the devil's advocate. I'm always the one who's like, well, what if someone interprets it this way or that way? So we're talking about having, you know, keeping the door open, and the kids can take toilet paper and have a snack and all this. What happens when you have a 30-year-old who's living in the basement, gaming all day long, you know, wants a, I don't know, what, like, who's paying for these things? Who's dealing with these things? Like, we don't want to get into that situation. There's a difference between coddling a child, which is a form of needing, by the way, because if your 30-year-old is at home with you and you're paying for everything, and he's not becoming a responsible adult and wanting to take responsibility, then what, you know, you must need him there. Like, otherwise he wouldn't be there. Like, what about the boundaries? What about these different things? So I will just say, my son is currently serving in the military, and he wants to buy this electronic device, something that he wants for him with his own money. And that's great. It's wonderful. And he's doing research on it, whatever. And every now and again, he'll tell me, yeah, I want to get this thing. Once I have enough saved up, he's got his own budget going on, and he's just sharing it with me. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds cool. You know, it's like, great. All right. And I'm staying out of that. However, to me, that's a very different thing than when he comes home, like doing his laundry and eating here, like his own private, whatever thing for his own entertainment. Okay, is a different thing. That's something he should be paying for. That's his responsibility. However, you know, basic needs and all this is still his home. And on the other side, and we got a question in the comments, which we can deal with a bit here and also in the Q&A if we want, is about chores for these older kids. So one thing that I've told my kids for quite a while now is we're a family, we're a unit. That net that we're building and the responsible adults, that's part of chores and part of divvying up responsibility. So I tell my kids, like, listen, we're all eating. we're all eating the food. And that means we all need to participate. So either that's making food, or it's washing dishes, or it's unloading the dishwasher, or putting dishes in. It's taking responsibility for different things. And so everyone has these chores divided up, and they don't come naturally. If you're expecting your 17-year-old in the case of the comments to just kind of sit, like, go, oh, look, there's so many dishes in the sink, I'll take care of that. Usually it doesn't happen that way. Usually the way it happens is through this kind of open communication, which Gila talked about and Chava talked about, where you sit down, you have this open, respectful communication, like listening. You are welcome here all the time. However, I feel really overburdened when you make all these delicious confections in the kitchen and there are bags and bowls and pots and things all over the place, and you're not cleaning up after yourself. I need you to do that, because it's creating a lot of extra work for me or your other sibling who's in charge of washing dishes or whatever it is. And then if you've raised children who are emotionally connected and sensitive, they don't want to cause extra work for their mother or for their siblings. They love them. So they want to make sure that things are fair, and they're mindful of that. Sometimes you just need to call it to their attention. And that's part of boundary setting in my mind. So, ladies.
So if we've raised the children as attachment parenting, and they grow up and they have this sense of respect coming back and forth, and they know boundaries, and they respect invasion of space or personal space, then they grow up and they have these thoughts like, yeah, there's dishes in the sink, I'll wash them, or whatever. It kind of comes naturally to them. But even if they didn't, like in terms of, well, I can say me. So it's a skill that can be learned if the intent and the effort is put forth. Even if you don't have that example and you didn't grow up in this wonderful environment, it needs to be taught and learned. And it's a skill. It really is a skill. And so if you have an adult who never had these ideas presented to him or her, that's where the open communication is. I set my boundaries. They have their boundaries. We respect. We each hear and listen to what the other one's saying. The needs need to be met on both sides. And you're speaking with an adult. And so it needs to be an adult conversation. If you are still speaking down to your child as a little toddler, that's what you're going to get back. And I work with Taurus so often, and this is what I'm seeing over and over. They are speaking to their little toddlers, and they're speaking to their adult children in exactly that same tone. And then they get the same response from both of them as a toddler. And that child didn't.
Chava, are you able to give an example of that, of talking to a toddler and an older child in the same way?
Yep. So we have families coming in, and we have stations at the farm. So we'll go to one greenhouse and a different field, and we see vegetables, and we talk about the whole growing in the land of Israel and all kinds of things. So we have lots and lots of groups coming in, and it's kind of, you guys were there with the tour the other day. It's like you take 10 minutes in one station, and then she kind of looks to see what the other group is doing so that we can move on. So I have the same thing. So every kind of thing is timed. And there are people who are like, okay, it's time to move on. Let's go. And everyone gets up respectfully. They understand the boundaries. They understand the rules. They understand the place and that there are guests here, and, there's respect going on. And then there's others who are like, well, I'm not done. I don't want to move yet. I'm still sipping my drink, or whatever. And it's like, and I don't want to step in because these are family issues and I'm the guide, but I need to move everyone along. And I leave it to the families first. And it's a mess. It is a mess in so many situations where the adult is speaking back to the parent, not understanding the rules of the whole game of where you are and that there's other groups and there's other people to respect and other people's space because they need this spot now. And then the parent is asking nicely in the beginning, again, speaking like to a little child, and there's no communication there. The parent is saying something and the child is not understanding, or the adult. It's very frustrating. So I kind of have to step in and be the adult for everyone. Um, I get a lot of practice in that. But anyway, so that's just one example. So when we have open communication and when everyone acts as an adult, things go much more smoothly. But it can be a skill and it can be learned.
You're muted, Gila.
Hello. I love everything you said. Thank you so much for sharing. And I love also, you get a glimpse of, of families interacting and I think that we have so much to learn from that. And I love your parting words. It's a skill and it can be learned. And I think the three of us have gained and learned and acquired and continue to learn and acquire all of these parenting skills along the way because we stay true to our goal. It doesn't mean we're always super successful. It doesn't mean we never, make the wrong choice or react, say something we regret. But at the core, having the goal, what is the goal? And having the bond and the relationship and the open communication being so important is what guides us to be like, and I hear this from moms often is, they speak, well, they're not being adults, and I don't want to be whiny as I say that, but as a mom, we all go there. Sometimes it's so frustrating, we look at one of our precious, beloved adult kids and we're like, they're not behaving like the way we would want them to behave, how we perceive an adult behaves. But at the same time, we all have moments like that, especially as parents. We will whine and say things we regret, which is not very mature or emotionally regulated. So I think there's a huge place for humor as we navigate this path, as we navigate this stage of life. And who better to get humor than adult kids? And kids today who are on social media and are looking at these funny memes and are, sharing, hey, did you see this one? It was so funny, so funny. So any way that speaks to our soul and resonates with us is a way to be creative, be resourceful, and redo, we reacted. Okay, swallow it. Try find the words we wanted to use. Pick up the phone. This is what I really meant to say. Do over. We get to do a do over, And in that way, I think the lesson, the modeling, um, you know, for our kids is huge because they get to see, hey, mom reacted or she said XYZ. But guess what? She had the logic, the maturity, the emotional regulation to go back and say, hey, I really meant to say that. I was triggered, didn't act maturely. Voila, you can do the same. So I think it's a very forgiving, and I think that's an important word, also forgiving. And, as you were speaking, Chava, again, it's really boundaries are important as we talk about being unconditionally loving and respecting and all these things. Like Rivka always breaks things down and I love it. It is important to have boundaries and so again, what would we do in such a situation if our adult kids or young adults or spoke to us in such a way? Again, it's respond, not react, you know. Teach. It's a teaching moment. It's a moment to learn that we need to acquire these skills that you are talking about. I love and I just have to add that I'm a grandmother as well, but I love having adult kids. And I look at them sometimes and I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, you know. Yes, I have moments where I'm like, what were you thinking? Or obviously you weren't thinking. But at the same time, we've all, maybe not all, but I've definitely done things as a young adult too, or said things or made choices that were not ones I'd love my kids to make. So, you know, it's healthy boundaries, open communication, forgiveness, you know. They're going to do stuff. Not everyone, you know, just being there for them and having them know that is different than coddling and them thinking they can behave anyway. Like I always say, you know, if, like I said before here, you know, being spoken to disrespectfully by anyone, we need to have a healthy boundary. We may not have a witty, quick comeback. I often don't, but just, you know, saying, protecting myself without using hurtful words and think about it, come back later. It's wonderful to have adult kids. It's the best, really.
And those types of dealing with that confrontation and setting boundaries can actually lead to deeper relationship and
Yeah.
deeper love. So, you know, I had an adult child who snapped at me and spoke to me in a not nice way. And I said, okay, I will never, ever allow you to speak to me that way. You know, and it's a real hard boundary and a real reality check. And that woke this child up like, whoa. And then it was like, I'm so sorry. That was not appropriate the way I spoke to you. Like, and I said, you're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to disagree with me. Absolutely, but that's got to be done in a respectful way, which, by the way, is a mitzvah, kibud av v'em. So the children are not allowed to talk to their parents in a disrespectful way. And how do you think they're going to learn that? You have to teach them. You have to put those boundaries around yourself so that they learn. And this child said to me afterwards, you know, thank you for saying that, because the reality is I am having so much stress at work or at whatever it was. I'm taking it out on you. And what I really need to do is I need to talk about that. I feel like I'm all alone in that situation. I said, well, let's talk about it. And then we opened up this warm, wonderful communication and just kept sailing right along on the track we always had. But I think the what I would like to end with maybe is that it's never too late, which we've said before. It's never too late. Even if you didn't put the boundaries and you didn't raise your kids like this, they didn't grow up like this, you're not used to having open communication and respect and, you know, them doing chores. It's never too late to introduce chores and introduce these things and have open, respectful communication. Just model what you want. Be loving. Words that come from the heart emanate into the other's heart, as we know.
I didn't come down here to end the program.
Oh.
We got 20 minutes left. I wanted to add a comment. Don't worry, it won't be a filibuster, Gila, but I wanted to add a comment related to what you're saying from something that I found out from my research. First of all, the place in the world where people live the longest is not Shangri-La in Lost Horizons, not in the Caucasus. They do live not in valleys in Afghanistan. It's Okinawa. In Okinawa, people live till up to 116. How do they handle? You're never alone. You're never retired and useless. They just keep moving people as you get older to things that you can do at 105 that you can't do anymore when you were 25. And everybody's part of a group, multiple groups. You're never abandoned and dumped. You just get old and go home to God, usually in pretty good condition without chronic illnesses and terrible things we see in nursing homes. That's one thing. So because of their strong extended family and communal structures. Another thing is about schizophrenia. Studies have been done. First of all, it's not clear what schizophrenia is. I've read all sorts of descriptions. It seems what I can conclude, what is schizophrenia, based on my research, we live in an intergalactic, multi-dimensional universe. The schizophrenic is not able to tune into one radio station or a limited wave band down here. The schizophrenic tunes into multiple radio stations, which is not helpful for living daily life down here in the madhouse, which is what it is. And it says, oh, but you're having hallucinations and fantasies. No, you're seeing things that other people don't see, that don't help you live down here. And then you're told you're crazy. They're not crazy. They're just like tuning into a dial in an old radio set, and it's not really good, but it doesn't really, you tune into this, but you hear that, that's schizophrenia. So studies were done from schizophrenics. Was found that in so-called third world countries, like you described, Sri Lanka, other places, they do much better than in Western countries because they have strong family. Okay, grandpa or grandma, they're crazy. We have a place for them in the village. We'll take care of them. We don't use all sorts of drugs and horrible procedures like in Western countries. They do much better. I saw this when my father lived from 2011 to 2018 at the Hebrew home in Riverdale. I went to visit him in the summer of 2000. Whenever I would visit home, I would go visit him. And the nurses said, you know, nobody else does that. I saw that every hour. I'm very, scheduled. I would say, Daddy, I have to go just take a walk around the halls. Hello, good morning. Nobody was there. One of the nurses said to me, she lowered her voice like the KGB is listening. The families only come a day or two before they think so-and-so's going to kick the bucket and drop dead because they want to make sure they're in the wills. As the Talmud says, O chavruta mituta, give me liberty, give me death, Patrick Henry, community or death. Isolation leads to insanity. I asked a psychiatrist, what happens if someone goes into a psychosis, leaving that undefined? Is it better there alone? He said, no. Then it just go down the rabbit hole more. You want to get him into a group of people. Hopefully not Jim Jones and terrible cults with cult leaders who take advantage of people who are lonely. That happens all over the world all the times, but healthy, normal groups. So what I would say to people out there in severely dysfunctional Western societies or Israel, if you're Catholic, go to the Mahjong bingo club at the church. I don't care what your religion is. Don't stay home. Like a cabaret, what does Liza Minnelli sing? What use is sitting alone at your room? Come here, the music play. Like it's true. Go to a cafe. Of course, you go to a good place, not a bad place. Go to the cafe. Go to in the pubs in England. They're not doing so well. Work places where families went. Be there all Sunday. That activities for the children. It wasn't like a bar in America. Go to get drunk and it's dark and it's terrible. Completely different. So, especially now with the increase of suicides and mental breakdowns in Israel, any kind of support network, preferably, again, not cultic, horrible cult leaders to abuse financially or sexually the members. Get out of the house. And Israel has many organizations. One thing I realized about Israel, there's a lot of support networks. People don't know where they are. The networks and the people are not connecting. And so I would agree with what your ladies are saying, that what your parents did to you, to throw you out of the house. I know my father would say, yes or no, sir, no excuse, sir, absolutely unacceptable. He was a lawyer in the South Bronx, dealing with very rough situations. Girls who were pregnant at 16 in the Puerto Rican and Black community couldn't read or write. In the Black community, you just fell into a pit. It was a disaster. In the Puerto Rican community, unwanted children usually got taken care of by some abuela somewhere. Much stronger family structures for the Puerto Ricans than American Blacks. A total disaster. So Yeah, you want the support networks are critical. Also, and then I'll go back to the gallery. What did Amalek do? What does Amalek do? Went after the stragglers, the old, the sick, behind the main group, and what went after them. So support networks are life and death, because when they're not there, Amalek, the Erev Rav, comes in for the kill. And that's exactly what they did with the extermination injections. Isolate the children from the parents, have them not go to school, have them wear masks. All of this is turning out to have been not only useless, but destructive. And then I'll go back to the gallery. The regime here is terrified that what's coming out in America with Secretary Kennedy, with the support of President Trump, whatever he did wrong the last time, the autism vaccine connection, all the things you won't read about it in the make-believe Shtetl Parsha. I regard Ynet, all the establishment outlets, they're all Parsha sheets, Shtetl Parsha sheets. They won't, it's not that they say it's not true. They just won't talk about it. But it's not working because Israelis are developing their own systems of communication and connection, and people are figuring stuff out. They may not know what to do about it, but they know there's an it. Would you ladies agree? You live here. That's why the number of people accepting injections of any kind for themselves is declining all over the country. It's not going up, it's going down. People are realizing something's not right here. Anyway, I'm going to go up to the gallery, but I can't overemphasize the importance of community, structures, family. If you don't have your own, so go join a club. Or so it doesn't matter, bowling, bingo, mahjong, fencing, anything, the bicycling. If you don't have a family, because family structures are broken down, look what you described in your own family. I'll change. This is terrible. It's criminal. Go and find one, or let them find you. Rabbi Grossman, who, as far as I know, is he still alive? He did wonderful work. He'd go to the disco Rebbe, go to the bars. He has a center in Migdal in Galilee somewhere. And once a young man said, Rabbi, what are you doing here in the bar? And he answered, I came to look for you. I ask you the same question. And he got a lot of, I'm not in favor of, I was a teenage werewolf and now I have a Strimal and Payas and I went and joined some Satmar group. Not saying there's anything wrong. Some people need that structure. But he got a lot of boys out of really bad situations and into better situations. Rabbi Grossman, I think it's Migdal Emek. Is that it? He has a yeshiva up there. That's all I wanted to say about schizophrenics and Okinawa. And you see here in Israel and Gilas in Florida, how many people fall between the cracks, and then they get picked up by the pimps and the pushers for prostitution and drugs. That's all I want to say. I'm going back up to the gallery.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could give a better reason for why it's worth investing in your adult children than what you just said. You know, okay, going to a mahjong group is great. It's better than nothing. But ideally, you want a family system where you can depend on one another. And you know, there is a broken chain. And that's part of the work that the three of us are doing, is trying to restore the broken chain. I mean, for me, the takeaway about how our ancestral wisdom talked about establishing a family, and that Shanat Rishonah, as well as just 2 generations ago, my grandmother, you know, who died when I was a teen. Both my grandmothers died when I was in my teens, but I knew them, I grew up with them, and they lived in a world that respected the woman and the wife and the husband building a home, and that in 2 generations has completely been dismantled. And And if we keep letting this go on and we don't get it back and start turning the tide, if in 2 generations it was dismantled, maybe in 2 more generations we can reforge the broken chain. But we can't let it keep going on, because if we don't, then pretty soon no one's going to have any memories of a grandmother who, had a different way or lived in a different type of world. Chava and Gila?
Yeah. Um, so one thing that we said, I think it was Rivka that said it. I mean, we've just kind of hit on everything, but there was one more angle, which was nourishing the soil. If our children are a plant that needs to grow and bear its own fruit or seed, whatever, in its own time, we are providing that nourishment from underneath. I just love that visual.
Yeah, I love it too. It reminds me of when Bettina came on and talked about the menopausal process and being a plant that, a woman is a plant. If you haven't seen that episode, check it out. Any parting words before it seems like the Q&A could get lively. We've had some raised hands and stuff, which I would like to do, but not recorded to respect everyone's privacy. So are there any final words, Gila or Chava?
Yeah, just one last thing. So we started out with saying, I'm here whenever you need me, and you're not alone. Two huge statements, huge, that would have changed so many children's lives. It gives them that safety net, but it also kind of gives them a springboard with which to take that leap into adulthood and responsibility and all the craziness that's out there, knowing they can always look back and mom's there, or, the family situation has got their back. But it does give you, there's the over coddling, which is like, no, stay with me all the time, stay with me, then I'm not alone. But those two statements actually give them the safety net and the diving board at the same time. And it's really nice.
Exactly what you said. There is this balance, and essentially it's not just that we shouldn't need from our kids, but what we've discussed the whole time, and I'm just going to kind of put it in words for me, what this means as well, is we should know how to, and this is a skill as well, and it's really important, and it's the skill of letting go. Because and again, not the coddling, being there fully, but also being able to step back and let go. To let go of these notions or these even dreams that we may have or have had, and to look at who these adults, these people really are. If we're not able to let go of these things, then we are needing from our kids, and we are not respecting them for who they are or seeing them for who they are. So there is a letting go. And again, it's not a letting go in a black and white sense. It is totally letting go and allowing for relationship with an adult, seeing them as such. And that doesn't mean, again, just like Chava and Rivka has said, there can be bumps. And these bumps, as Rivka said, can be opportunities. And it might take a few hours, a few minutes, a day or a week to, sit with that and formulate, I'm not comfortable with this. How do I communicate this, without speaking to a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, or a 2-year-old? Take a moment to go through how you would like to see this conversation. Have that vision. How do I envision this? How do I manifest that? And remember, you're still the adult of the adults in the room. So, hey, ish, when in a place where there's no man, be the man. In a place where there's no woman, be the woman. So step into it and take the role on you, just as you did as a mom for babies, toddlers, preschoolers, teenagers. Same thing. Envision that and keep that in front of you. And that doesn't mean there's not going to be bumps or moments that we said, oh, I shouldn't have said that, or I wish I said that, or I need to ask, I want to ask this. We're still allowed our opinions, but there's a time and place for that. When they're like 15, I might send them, memes or, oh, did you hear this podcast? Or so and so said this. Have you read this? Or so I can still do that. But as an adult, sharing with an adult, what did you think of this? This really resonated with me, not as in, oh, you should learn from this, yes, but sharing, just like I'd share with you guys. Hey, look at this, So it's just about changing that perspective. Just, as you would kind of do. Remember when we spoke together about the Hachnasat Orchim. So I have a minute. Not all my kids, observe Shabbat. Not all my kids do. I choose certain things not all my kids choose, And I've had people say to me, you let them come and go on Shabbat? And I'm like, I don't let or not let. If I have guests and I don't say, how did you drive here? Why do you drive? Or did you drive? You can't eat my food. I don't. If someone knocks on my door, they're going to be offered a full meal, with containers for goodie bags. Nobody walks in my house without getting offered water or cup of tea or whatever it is we have, chocolate, bananas, whatever. Why would I treat my kids differently? How do I expect my kids to grow up respecting and treating other people with Hachnasat Orchim when I show them that guests and strangers are more deserving of my respect? And that goes across the board for everything. So I can tell them my opinion. They know what I choose. But at the same time, am I spouting unconditional love? Or am I showing them, this is how you treat people? This is how you have relationship. So that's my parting words.
Yeah, so letting go, but remaining present, which is really what
Love
Hashem
it.
does which is what Hashem does for us, right? Creator
Yeah.
Spirit is always present. Anytime we want, we need, Hashem gives us with an open hand. This is all coming from our ancestral wisdom. We turn to Hashem, but Hashem wants us to have free will, wants us to go, and that's why Hashem is hidden, right? So let go, but remain present. Mind your own mitzvot.
Mind your own mitzvah.
Mind your
That's
own mitzvot.
amazing.
It
Love
is
Oh my
amazing.
God.
Mind your own mitzvot.
Awesome.
Gosh, those women who are harassing you, Gila, just tell them to mind their own mitzvot.
No one's
Lord.
harassing me.
Okay, and another couple of things. One is my son has called me from the military, and he says, it's really interesting because I listen to my friends and they call their parents. And it's just like, how are you? How are you? Okay, good. Yeah, okay, talk to you later. Bye. And he's like, when I call you guys, I'm on for like an hour, I'm like, well, how do you feel about that? Like, what is that? What are you saying? And he's like, well, I just really feel like we have meaningful conversations about stuff. Like I'm really sharing my feelings, and it's not just I'm okay, everything's okay. Like, because you really want to hear how I'm really doing and what's really happening. And he's told us how much he appreciates that and how he wishes that for other people. So be that kind of person for your child, really really have meaningful relationships, not the cursory, the go with the flow without thinking. Be an intentional parent. Really think about it. Like with Gila talking about the memes, Gila will sometimes send me memes and say, or send me things and say, maybe this is useful for you, or I thought of you, or whatever. And I don't feel like she's giving me a lecture or telling me what I need to do with my life. I feel like she's just trying to be helpful, and she was actually paying attention to what I said and what I was talking about. And she thought of me, and it feels caring. It doesn't feel like a lecture or something, or judgment on my life. And yeah, like, as important as the family situation is, the boundaries are still important. So if things are not feeling right, or things have crossed a line, then you separate. And that's healthy. It's important, and especially important to model it for your children. So I think we can close out now. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next month, and we'll open up to Q&A. Lowell?
Oh, yes. So thank you very much. And we will reconvene, God willing, for episode 36 in September. And Rivka, I hope that your program with Roseanne is going to happen. No, you've been working on that.
We're working on it. Yeah, it was supposed to be today, but we're working on it.
Okay. Well,
Scheduling it is a challenge.
She did say she does want to do it, and her son, her faithful son, is a good producer, and it will happen. So thank you very much to three mighty women of the God of Israel, Rivka, Chava, and Gila, for another. I mean, your talks may be the difference between people committing suicide, having breakdowns, and not listening, or family members say, "Oh, I think I know how to help that person." They may not cry to help. How do I hear the cry for help of a person who can't talk? Do I have to wait till they're dead? So it can't be overstated what you're doing, how important it is in the troubled times all over the world. So we're going to end the recorded section now for our viewers and listeners. And the ladies here, well, they'll happen to be ladies, will continue talking privately. So shalom from the northern Negev, the Low of Galilee, and Jerusalem. And we will see you, God willing, the month. Did it